Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Apologies for any slightly dodgy sound quality, it's just the way these things go sometimes. But today I'm bringing you a painting and modelling video. Specifically, this is what I'm terming the lockdown showcase. So I've done a lot of hobby this year, but obviously with quarantine and lockdown and everything that's been going on, I've had a lot more time to do a bunch of extra hobby than I probably would have had time for in a normal year. So what I'm going to show off in this video is everything that I've managed to get done during lockdown. Now, technically, I know lockdown's not actually over, at least in the UK, but because I'm going to be moving house soon, this is all I'm going to do before I move house, and so at that point we sort of reset the timer in my own head. So we've got plenty to get through. As you can see, there's a lot on this table from a variety of armies and game systems. So the first things we're going to have at the front are from my Tau Empire. Now, technically the model I'm starting with actually isn't from Lockdown, and it's not even my miniature, but I wanted to include it because it's such an amazing miniature that I wanted to feature it on the channel somewhere. So this is, as you can tell, a Commander Farsight conversion using the XV85 Commander kit. And this was actually sent to me as a gift by one of the mods in my Discord, the PGC video. So they sent this to me because they'd done a Tau army but were then selling it on. And they very kindly gave me their Farsight. I didn't expect it, so it was very kind of them. And yeah, I just wanted to show it up on the channel because it is an absolutely awesome miniature. And it's definitely replaced my Farsight as the leader of my army. And yeah, I just wanted to include that in the video, even though it's not from Lockdown. What is from Lockdown, though, are the other two HQs I've had time to work on. So I bought Commander Shadow Sun when Psychic Awakening 5 came out, and then I decided I didn't like the pose and wanted to redo it. And I'll tell you something for nothing, this was a challenge. Okay, this was a challenge. So I've actually not done as much as you'd think to Shadow Sun in many ways. I slightly reposed, I think, one of the legs, and I definitely reposed primarily this set of arms. So instead of having her being leaping off to this side with the gun pointing forwards, I reposed her to have her in a slightly different pose, and I've turned the head as well. Now, I'll tell you something for nothing. This miniature does not like to be reposed. I can't speak for the other Psychic Awakening miniatures like Gazkul and Mephiston, but Shadow Sun comes from a kit that has actual peg joints. They're not flat seams that join together, and it's not a ball joint where you can rotate it. They're actual square pegs, so you've got no rotation aside from 90 degrees to actually do anything with her. And so I had to cut all those pegs off and trim a bits of arm and leg and shoulder and hip joint just to get this reposing exercise done. And you can tell it's slightly reposed because the head is still looking off in a wonky direction. It should really be looking sort of in this direction, but it's not, thanks to the way that Shadow Sun was designed. I've also got her two drones that accompany her in her new battle suit, just done in the standard way, although I did decide to not put any white on the top fins because they don't really have a place to put it, but I have got it on that lower fin down there. So I'm really pleased with Shadow Sun, and since she can join any Tau army, even Enclaves, I get the feeling I'm going to run an army where her and Farsight work together quite a lot. I then had the time to go back to one of my old miniatures, my Cadra Fireblade. So this is actually a miniature I did when I started the Tau army about 4 years ago now, just over 4 years ago. And it was absolutely terrible. I took the Ethereal from the start collecting, and I decided to give it a pulse rifle without really doing much else. I did a head swap, I added this sensor, and I gave it a pulse rifle, but I strapped the pulse rifle to the staff rather than actually swapping it out. So I went back to the miniature and I redid it a second time. So now it's a double arm swap. So they've got an actual pulse rifle from the Fire Warriors kit as well as a marker light. They've got their sensor, Auspex type thing. I gave them a breeches shoulder pad on this arm, and I also bought the Farsight Enclaves shoulder pads, just one pack of them,
So I was able to have one spare because there were 12. So I had one spare to put on the shoulder and one more spare to put the Enclave symbol over the ounce symbol on the chest. And this is the bit I'm really proud of. I put a backpack on, so I was able to create what I term like a baby Dawnblade. So that's the ethereal staff from the Start Collecting, cut short with a power pack on the base, and with a few different little Fire Warrior bits and bobs stuck around the outside of it. So the idea was I was trying to mimic the Dawnblade. So there's the Dawnblade. It's got the little vein bits coming off the side of it. So I wanted to sort of recreate that with the Fireblade. And that was the idea. It's a bit weird, and obviously it's never going to be used in combat because Fireblades don't have this option to have a fire blade. But as a sort of tribute to Farsight and further marking them out as enclaves, I thought it was a really cool idea. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it any good, or is it just a pile of hot garbage? Certainly, though, I think it's an improvement on the one I did 4 years ago, even though it's the same miniature, just reworked. Then we have some Vespid Stingwings. I wasn't sure I was ever going to get some Vespid, but I do like them in many ways. So I'll just pull the Strain Leader up into some better lighting. So they're painted in dark green. I've got really used to this Caliban green with Hellion green dry brush. I used it first on my Melisai, part of my Elfin Adventure project last year. And I've really come to like it. And I've used, I've forgotten its name now, the Stegodon Scale Green for the wings. And then edge highlighted it with grey. And then the armor's done in my traditional shiny blue with a red gun and a yellow crystal for the neutron blaster. So that is my Vespid Strain Leader. I wasn't sure I was ever going to do Vespid because it's a really old kit, but they're actually quite nice to work on, and whilst I'm not a huge fan of painting resin, it was actually pretty easy to do them, and it was quite enjoyable. I also got a chance to base them as well, which was good. Next on the list, we have a Fire Warrior Strike Team. This is one that I started way back in like November, December, but I only got a few of them done before lockdown, so I took the time during lockdown to finish them off. So here's the chassis for the squad. I have a thing with my Fire Warrior teams where I swap the heads and shoulder pads of the squad leaders over. So you can see there, that's a Breacher's shoulder pad and a Breacher's helmet. There, and I've given the whole squad pulse carbines, mainly for variety, but also because I'm playing Farsight Enclaves, I don't mind getting a bit more up close and personal with assault weapons. So I was more than happy to do that. So I went with that as an option, and it also means I've got a full set of all the different weapon options. And this is the standard chassis. So sort of standard stuff, and they've got the actual Fire Warrior shoulder pads for a strike team. To be honest, I'm just glad I got to redo these things because my old Fire Warriors look like hot garbage. So getting a chance to redo a few of them was definitely worthwhile. And I also did a second Breacher's team as part of lockdown. And these guys actually did something a little different. So these are the guys I bought the Farsight Enclaves shoulder pads for. You see that there, that's the Enclaves shoulder pad rather than the Fire Warriors or the Breacher's one. And the chassis, for once I didn't swap the shoulder pads. I kept with the Enclaves, but I did swap the colour palette a little bit, you can see there. And I did give them a strike team helm just to mix it up a little bit. And in their hand there, they've got a ammo clip to reload the pulse blaster. So standard stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say I've got the best painting in the world, but I can paint these guys quite quickly. I was doing about one per evening. Which was quite good when I was checking out in Discord and things like that. Also given them a Guardian drone, and both squads have got a little support turret, the DS8. These guys have missile pods purely because the other two teams I did long ago have got smart missile systems, so it's just for variety, even though I'll probably never use either of them. This also gives me 4 full Fire Warrior teams, which means that I can create a battalion detachment very easily, and I can also create a brigade detachment quite easily by splitting the Breacher teams, for example, into teams of 5 if I wanted to. So I've just given myself more options for detachments since my army before was built around battle suits, and if you want to make bigger detachments nowadays, you need fire warriors, and I'm not a huge fan of painting Kroot. I have a few Kroot, but I'm not a huge fan. Probably the biggest thing I did over lockdown was I invested in a Tide Wall defense network. So I got here a Tide Wall shield line. See that there? It's very simple. It's actually a really nice kit to work on. I actually really enjoyed working on this. Although I did get through a lot of hard coat by putting the gloss finish, and it doesn't really show the defense wall blue as well as, say, painted in viola colors. I also took the time to paint all the underside as well. That was more trouble than it was worth, I can tell you. But it was simple enough, and yeah. So the Tide Wall shield line also comes with a defense platform, which is this one right here. So nice and simple, no tricks or anything about this one. But what's good about it is the stairs can actually be placed in all sorts of locations. So the way this is designed is it's in segments. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments, and there's another couple in the box as well. So you can actually move these segments to be on any of the corners. So you can, as long as you've got 6 different segments, you can put them in any order, which means that you can really create a diverse network if you wanted to. Painted the underside of this as well. Again, right royal paint, I can tell you that for nothing. But I was quite pleased with it, and it just means that my fire warriors don't need a devilfish to move around. Because I don't want to be painting like 6 devilfishes, and this means that they can move around the board in a transport, but still shoot out of it. So it gives my fire warriors some extra defense at the cost of a bit of maneuverability, whilst keeping their ability to shoot. So my strike teams, I think, are really going to get a use out of these in particular, and my breacher teams will get the devilfishes. I also got a Tide Wall drone port as well, which is the same idea, but 2 of the segments are replaced by these drone bays, and I then put 2 sets of steps on as well. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments again. At the moment, there's a shield drone, a gun drone, and a shield drone in there. But as long as you take 4 tactical drones, I think they all have to be the same. This is just what I had to hand. Then you're absolutely fine. And I painted it exactly the same way. The main thing is I redid the white on the Tau Empire symbol because it was very dark and very messy after I washed it. So I redid it. Again, there's the underside. It's exactly the same as the defense platform. I did weigh up getting a gun rig with the Supremacy Railgun, but I thought I'm going to get less use out of that because it's so much more expensive than even the drone port where you have to pay for the drones. I didn't think I was going to get much use out of the Railgun by comparison. So I might get one, but I know the Tide Walls suck. I'm doing this for flavor. It's just something a little bit different to make my army stand out and do something different because I like my army to move, unlike seemingly Games Workshop. I also invested in a sniper drone team, so here's their Farsight marksman. The last miniature I did actually for the Tau during lockdown. So if I just turn myself into the light, it's actually quite an easy miniature to do. The main challenge is getting everything lined up when you're basing it because the head is part of the sighting mechanism and has to sit on the body whilst the kickstand sits in the foot of the kickstand. So you have to line it all up really perfectly, and as you might be able to tell by some of the markings, I got it wrong the first time, but you won't see that after I based it. The sniper drones were actually very easy, because drones are easy anyway, but these guys were actually quite fun to work on. A bit of a challenge in terms of getting their flying base, which is why I've painted their bases black, because I had to trim the flying stand a little bit to get the drones to sit on them. And I think I've even had to use a bit of blue tack in some cases. So that's the reason for that. It's just, if the resin doesn't cast absolutely perfectly, they don't sit on a flying stand all that nicely. Or these were designed and they've redesigned flying stands since then, so they didn't sit on them just as nicely. So a bit of a pain, but nothing too major. And I think they'll find a use in my army if I don't have points like for a hammerhead or a double broadside or things like that. There's a few tactical drones at the back. I'm not going to get into that because that's just marker drones and shield drones. I realised I had a criminal lack of shield drones, but I'm not going to be getting loads more. I just wanted to have enough that I could say have 1 per crisis suit in a big squad, because I don't like this current 8th edition tactics of spam shield drones, hide around corners, just eat all the bullets. That's not my way of doing things, and I think hopefully the changes in 9th edition will encourage Tau to do something other than that. Though getting the old Overwatch back, not a fan, but it may be the only way that they stay alive. So we'll see how the Tau play in the new edition. But that's a solid core for an army. Like, you could look at that and say that that's a sort of, not quite a battle-forged army, because it's got too many HQs, really, for the size of army, but it's pretty close. And I really enjoy working on it. It was great to go back to my Tau, because I haven't worked on them for about 3 years. I didn't do them when I was in France. I did an Elfwood adventure last year. So this is my first real go at my Tau in a long time. And hopefully with 9th edition, I'll find plenty of use to keep playing them. And you may have noticed at the back, yes, I got some tiny planes. I'm not investing into Aeronautica fully, but the Barracudas are very cute. So I thought I'll just get myself some tiny planes because they're quick and easy to work on if I find some time. Staying with 40k, we'll move across. There's only a couple of orcs here. I got a Pain Boy and a Shock Jump Dragster. Now, I'm getting a second Dragster as a belated Christmas present, but I haven't got it just yet. That's why there's a number 1 written on the front, because one of my friends is a big fan of F1, and they convinced me to put like racing sponsors and stuff on. I couldn't do that, but I did humour them with the number. The Dragster itself is a lovely kit. It's a bit of a pain to work on in terms of the sub-assemblies, because you have to have the chassis, the individual wheels, these side bits come off, the gun, the crew, the other crew, the engine block. You probably need to keep that in separate pieces if you want to paint it accurately. The top spoiler, these side chains, the rocket rack, this roll cage piece. There's a lot of sub-assemblies that go into making a Shock Jump Dragster work. But if you can actually push through it, it's actually a very easy kit to paint once you get going, because most of it's one colour. You can sort of see there's a lot of red on the chassis. I'll turn it around the other side. And the engine block is mostly, well, for my case, it's silver and gold. So there's the Shock Jump engine from the back, which was probably the hardest bit of the kit to work on, and also the bit I did last of all. When I get the second one, I think what I'll probably do is switch out the colour scheme on the spoiler. So instead of being red with black on the outsides, it'll be black on the inside and red on the outside, but I'll keep the bright yellow. Because this is what I did on my Megatrack Scrapjet, which I've never shown off on the channel before. But I did these bright yellow on black. And it actually really works for contrast and keeps with the Evil Sun's colour scheme. So that's my Dragster number 1. Pain Boy, straight out of the box, nothing special here. I was just glad to be back painting orcs a little bit, because I haven't painted orcs in a long time. I did a Deathkiller Wartrike and a Megatrack Scrapjet at the start of this year, but they're not locked down, so they're not in this showcase. Looks like a challenging kit. It's really not, though. I had a lot of fun painting it, as long as you're careful. I think I had to do the white a couple of times and the red a couple of times just to tidy it up, but I'm really happy with the overall effect. And considering it's only base coat wash highlight, I think the skin really comes out well on my orcs, as long as I'm careful with the highlighting, because I don't overbrush it. I almost dry brush the I've actually forgotten the name of the middle green that I use. It's formerly known as Narlock green. I always forget its name in I think is it? No, it's not Ogre Camo. That's the really bright green. I forget its name, but I use that as my highlight, and it's really, really effective over the Caliban green base coat. And then finally, we get a little bit of Age of Sigmar. Now, I did a bunch of Sigmar last year with an Elfwood adventure, with the Daughters of Cain, the Ideneth Deepkin. And I actually did a bit more Ideneth at the start of the year. I got some Namati Reavers, some more Thralls, a Tidecaster, a Soul Scryer. So I have done plenty of Ideneth this year, which is why the only thing from lockdown that I've got is my Achelian Alapex, which I also got for Christmas. And I decided I didn't want to paint it grey, so I'll be honest, because I saw Shark Tale on the telly over the Christmas New Year period, I decided to paint it brown, just for something a little bit different. Still got the blue armour, Stegodon scale green for the wrappings and fabrics. And I think it came out really well in the end. It's very simple, but it came out very well. And I'm really glad I got the edge highlights mostly accurate. I went with the net launcher because it is objectively better in every way than the harpoon gun. And I've actually got a lot of use out of some of the spare parts in this kit. So there's the Achelian Riders.
Yeah, it's a really nice kit, and for once, it actually sits on a flying base. Granted, you have to glue it, but it sits on a flying base, unlike those stupid eels. The one thing about the Ideth I don't like is those friggin' eels, because they don't sit on a blooming flying stand. Just give us ball joints, G-dubs, please. And finally, I did a bit of work for the Cities of Sigmar. I bought a Start Collecting Anvil Guard not long after this book came out, because I wanted to expand my Order Serpentis. So that's why there's a War Hydra and a Drake Spawn Chariot. I haven't had time to do the Black Ark Corsairs yet, but I wasn't that interested in going full Scourge Privateers, so I didn't go for a Charybdis or a Scourge Runner, though I know Scourge Runners are one of the most powerful units in the book. So we'll start with the Drake Spawn Chariot. I've done plenty of cold ones in my time, though granted these are painted slightly differently. The Chariot itself, I started months ago and only finished in lockdown, but it was an actual pleasure to work on. You can't see most of the details because it's all glued down and you can't see it, but lots of finicky details, and I really enjoy just going back and painting this stuff again. I was debating doing some freehand or a transfer on the banner. Thought better of it because I'd probably get it wrong. Then we have a War Hydra. Again, a kit I started a long time ago with the Hydra, and then I finished off the Beastmasters during lockdown. So the Hydra itself, I've decided to keep with a very similar theme to the rest of my Serpentis, keeping with dark greens and reds. So my Black Dragon is black flesh with the dark green scales. This one I've gone for a brighter green scale, and the Stegodon scale green as the belly and the flesh. But I've also got those sharp red edge highlights or edge components like the tail and the fins and those sorts of things. So it does still pop with colour while staying consistent with the theme. The Beastmasters have gone with dragon scale. So they've got the same sort of dark green with the dry brush and a Coelia green shade wash that my dragon has. Just gives them more colour contrast to, for example, the Hydra itself. And whilst I did slightly convert this one to have a witch knife, I originally planned it to be a banner from the Witch Elves kit, but it just wouldn't stick on properly, and then eventually it just snapped, so it was having none of that, so I've just given her a simple witch knife. And whilst it's probably not the most powerful unit I've got, I really enjoy working on this, and it's a very simple kit to work on. Something I was really worried about with the Hydra was how difficult it was going to be to work on, and it wasn't. It was an absolute joy. And then finally, I've got two Black Ark Fleetmasters to show you. So the Fleetmaster has a kit in the Start Collecting Anvil Guard, which is this one on the left, and I'll start with that one. So it's mostly straight out of the box, but I did a arm swap and a head swap to make them look much more Achelian. So they've got a helm, which is a combination of the Morsar and Ishleyan Guard. You can actually sort of cross over the helmets, and a sword straight out of, I think, the Alapex kit. I think that's an Alapex sword, a Hell Saber. They kept the standard cruel hook, and everything else has stayed the same. I did have to cut the, the middle of this fin crest out to get the Achelian helm in, but I don't regret it. I regret nothing. I also put a fish on their base. So my sort of headcanon for this, as well as the dark green on the Sea Dragon cloak, says I did with the Beastmasters, is that this is an Achelian prince who has gone topside and is sort of a liaising agent or otherwise just a spy and a leader embedded in the Scourge Privateers of this army. And from Court of the Blind King, we know that some Achelians can fight on foot, and they sometimes wield amulets that give them their own personal ether sea. So that's why he can still breathe above water as an Achelian, because he's probably got some amulet stashed away on his person that allows him to keep generating his own little bubble of ether sea that he can breathe in. As for this one, this is actually a really cool conversion. I was really proud of this one. So when I was working on the Drakespawn Chariot, you actually get 4 charioteers, 2 Scourge Runner who've got this sort of look, like the Beastmasters, and 2 very heavily armoured ones
that you can see on the Drake spawn there. They've got the heavy armor with the shoulder guards and all of that. So I decided for this one to use her as a fleet mistress, since I tried it with the other one, but it was just an awkward pose. I couldn't get anything to stick. So there's actually 6 different kits gone into this conversion. So you've got the Scourge Runner Chariot as the body. This hook component is from the Kinnerai Life Takers. This arm is actually a combination of a Witch Elf forearm and an axe from, I think, the Dark Riders kit. The head is from the Bloodstalkers. Well, the face is from the Bloodstalkers, but the top knot is from the Scourge Runner Chariots kit. There's a bit of Sea Dragon cloak cut off the other Scourge Runner pilot to sit on top to mask the fact that I've actually used a Charybdis tail as the Sea Dragon cloak for this one. Same colours as the Black Dragon, not quite the same as the War Hydra, just to keep it consistent. And I've had to put this bit of cloak on top to sort of mask the top of the tail, and it then sticks out like that. I've also got a set of the Shattered Dominion bases. I wanted to get a hero base for her, but they don't have 25mm hero bases. Boo. So I had to put her on a Shattered Dominion 25mm base, which I've put sort of as a cracked coastline shipwreck type thing, where you've got wood from a ship, stone, and then water with bits of white in there as well to show like spray and the surf and all of that, and a bit of green wash around the edge of the rocks just to show where the water's washed up onto the rocks as well. And that is everything. That is the lockdown showcase of everything I've done over the past few months. Now, I actually bought a little bit more just before lockdown that I never got a chance to work on. So I've got a Mech Boy workshop for my orcs because I wanted to get one following Saga of the Beast revealing you needed one to get all the custom jobs. And I also bought a Start Collecting Daughters of Cain so that I could make a 4th unit of Melisai to get a Temple Nest, and so that I could do either a second Cauldron of Blood or Blood Rat Shrine. I was thinking about doing a Blood Rat Shrine this time, I'll be completely honest, just for variety. And it would also allow me to do new conversions of a Hag Queen and a Slaughter Queen using the baseline ones that you get in the kit, and maybe do a second avatar, because I love my old avatar, but it's showing its age a little bit. They're the other things I didn't get time to work on. I've also now got my Lumineth Realm Lords that I unboxed on the channel last week, or the week before, I think it might be by the time you're watching this. So I've got plenty to do once I do move house, before I start my new job. So I've got plenty to do. But for now, that is all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What is your favourite miniature from the showcase? Is it the Farsight conversion? Is it one of my Fleetmasters? Is it Shadow Sun? Is it the tiny planes I haven't built yet? Whatever it is, let me know. And if you have your own little lockdown hobby story, then feel free to share that with people. We can have a chat in the comments down below. But for now, thank you very much for watching Tactica Imperialis. This has been the Painting and Modelling Lockdown Hobby Showcase. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again. Bye for now.